Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just thrilled that you would tune me in today and uh, uh, invite me into your home. I have a special guest with me, our Spectacle Productions Program Director and Computer Tech, Paul Herring, is with me today on the program, and we're thrilled to have you invite us into your home. Um, Many Sunday school teachers uh, hold Sunday school classes for uh, young people and adults levels, children in the primary grades and secondary grades, and adults. And usually, the Sunday school classes are held in classrooms or in the sanctuary of the church, depending on available seats and so on. And usually a Christian flag is put on display where these classes are in sanctuaries, in churches, and um, the American flag. And the way that they would like their class to begin is they say, "I pledge allegiance to the Holy Bible, all 66 books, 39 in the Old Testament and 27 in the New Testament." And to the Christian flag and to the crucified, dead, and risen Savior for which it stands, and then to the American flag, pledging allegiance to the republic for which it stands, one nation under Jesus Christ, with liberty and justice, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is how many Sunday school classes begin, and then they usually read out of a uniform Sunday school lesson from the different denominational publishing houses that bring out their distinctives and what they believe doctrinally in their Sunday school classes. Um, I don't. Today's April 2nd, Tuesday, and I don't know if you heard on the news that the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland collapsed at 1:30 a.m. in the morning. And Francis Scott Key was the writer of the Star Spangled Banner. It's an American patriotic song. And people are thanking God that it collapsed early in morning hours instead of the rush hours, or a lot more than just 6 people were killed in that bridge collapse. I'm going to have my special guest, Paul Herring, read out of the New Testament one of Apostle Paul's letters to the Corinthian church, 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 22 through 30. Paul, could you read those verses, please?
Sure. Corinthians 2, chapter, what'd you say, 11?
2 Corinthians chapter 11, 22 through 30.
All right, chapter 11, 22 through 30. Stand by. Let's do this. And boom. How'd that open there? Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they the seed of Abraham? So am I. 23. Are they ministers of Christ? I speak as a fool. I am more in labors, more abundant in stripes above measure, in prisons more frequent, in deaths of it. 24. Of the Jews 5 times received I 40 stripes save one. 25. Thrice was I beaten with rods, once was I stoned. Thrice I was suffered shipwrecked, a night and a day, and I have been in the deep. 26. In the journeyings often, in perils of waters, in perils of robbers, in perils by mine own countrymen, in perils by the heathen, in peril in the cities, in peril in the wilderness, in perils in the sea, in perils among false brethren. 27. In weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fasting often, in cold and nakedness. 28. Besides those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, that care of all the churches. 29. Who is weak and I am not weak? Who is offended and I burnt not? 30. If I must needs glory, I will glory of the things which concern mine infirmities. 31. The God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, which is blessed forevermore, knoweth that I lie not. And you said go to 32?
No, that'll be good.
Okay, all right.
There was Apostle Paul, the apostle to the Gentiles, or the non-Jews. I'm sad to report that last May or June. Let me see. May, April. Last April of 2023. There's a man named Les Feltdick, and he owns a ranch and a farm out in Oklahoma, close to Oklahoma City and Tulsa, Oklahoma. And for since the 70s, he became rather known for a home style Christian educator. He was like a teacher. He had Bible studies on his ranch, and it just started with him and his wife Iris, and maybe two other people. But as he began to build a studio on his ranch and places for people to sit, tables and chairs, a lot of people came from not only Oklahoma, but they came from Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, and they came from Texas, Austin, Houston, and Dallas, and different places in those regions of western United States. And he said he never had any idea in his wildest dreams that he would become a televised teacher, Christian teacher. It started out just with 4 people, and he became known coast to coast in America because of television from the 70s through the year 2000. And he had died at 96 years old, April of 2023, and his wife Iris, who was in ministry with him and helped him in the Bible studies, died just a month later in her 91 years old. And in May of 2023, toward the end of May in 2023, his wife Iris died. She helped him in his presentations of his teachings of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and his main emphasis was on Apostle Paul, who was called the apostle to the Gentiles and the non-Jews. And that's why Christ appeared to Apostle Paul on the Damascus Road and told him that I've chosen you to take my name, bear my name before the non-Jewish people in the world, and you shall suffer great things for my name's sake. And he ended up toward the end of the book of Acts in the New Testament, martyring in a suburb of Rome. He was in prison in Rome for arrested him for preaching the gospel there. And at that time, the emperors of Rome thought they were God, and they died as they thought they were God. And they didn't like Paul talking about Jesus Christ. And so they martyred, they killed Paul for taking the gospel there. But that's what why the Lord appeared to him. He took the gospel to not just the Romans, but to a lot of other cities in the Eastern Hemisphere, up toward Turkey, and then he went to Greece, Macedonia, and was used to plant the first gospel on European soil when he met Lydia, and then it washed ashore the American colonies after the Reformation, or back in after the Reformation, the gospel found its way over to the colonies in America. And this is what Les Phelps talked about, and then he would talk about the Genesis account of creation, and he would, if you've got a pencil and a pen and paper, you might want to take it out, because I'm going to talk about some Bible verses, but I haven't got time in the time restraints of this program to actually go to those verses, but you can write them down and look them up and read them for yourself. I'm just wanting you to hear a little bit about what Les Phelps was teaching, and how he not only became known to most America, viewed widely in America coast to coast after a while, 40 years of teaching, but because of the satellite that Christian networks own, he was soon to be seen on Christian networks all over the world with his teachings. And they said the method that he taught, people enjoyed listening to him, and they say if you listen to him, he makes time fly. You just enjoy listening to him. If you would like to get your pen and pencil, I'll give you the phone number of his ministry. There are workers out to his ranch that are giving themselves to take your call and to facilitate you if you would like to learn more of this man, if you have not viewed him yet on television. Again, his name is Les Phelps, and that last name is spelled P as in pink, Phelpdick, Phelps, Les Phelps, and his website on the internet is lesphelpdick.org. And you can go to that website for contact information and information about the resources they have for you that are interested in the teaching of Christianity and the Bible. And I just wanted to give you a few glimpses of snapshots that he gave in his teaching. Like he presented in his teaching like snapshots. If you're a premillennialist and believe in a mid-trib rapture, he gives you a snapshot of what that looks like as compared to amillennialism and postmillennialism and pre-trib and post-trib snapshots too. If you're interested, you could call that number. Again, that number is 1-800-369-7856. 1-800-369-7856. That will call his office in Oklahoma. And like an example of what he talks about being a creationist is in Genesis chapter, if you want to write these verses down, in Genesis chapter 1 and Genesis chapter 2 is the 6-day creation account of in the beginning. Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 says, in the beginning God the Father created the heavens and the earth. And then Les talks about the gap theory, because something happened between Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 and Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, and the earth was catapulted from a perfect state of creation, pristine and perfect. Something catastrophic happened, and the earth was catapulted into a chaotic state without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And Les Felpdick actually talks about it became so chaotic without form and void that the Lord had a first flood. Noah's flood was 2,000 years later in the history of mankind inhabiting the earth. But the earth, as it was created originally, according to Les Felpdick's teachings, was pristine and perfect. And the words in Hebrew, when you go back to the original biblical languages of the Old Testament and use the Hebrew lexicons, the words are, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and the Hebrew words are Ber Reshith Elohim Bara. Now bara means perfect creation, no flaws, nothing. It was perfect creation that he had created, and it goes Elohim Bereshith Elohim bara ex nihilo, and that means out of nothing he perfectly created the earth, out of nothing, by just speaking it into existence. And see, he who spoke this world into existence by his power is a invisible spirit being, and he is the Father, and he's part of in 3 different other persons and personalities, and all these 3 persons of the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, have their own mind, will, and emotions. This is what Les Felpdick talks about. And they talked back in the beyond the dim mist of eternity. They had a little council, one with another, the 3 persons of the Godhead, and said, let us make man in our image. So the first man, Adam, that was created in the inhabitable earth was actually made with mind, will, and emotions, just like the holy persons 3 all have a mind, will, and emotion. And Les Felpdick said that in verse 1, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, you have the perfect, pristine earth created, and it was not inhabited by man at first in verse 1, but it was an angelic realm of angels, abode of angels. And Lucifer, the high archangel, was delegated authority to rule and to reign this angelic kingdom of the perfect earth in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. But something happened between verse 1 and verse 2, and the earth became without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep. Something happened, and it was catapulted into such a chaotic state that the Creator, the Father, had to flood. This is the first flood. Noah's flood was the second flood, but this is the first flood, and he had to flood the chaotic state that the earth had been catapulted into. They say that this catastrophic event that happened between verse 1 and verse 2, it may be linked to when, if you read in Isaiah chapter 14 and Ezekiel 28, Jesus said, I beheld Satan fall from heaven as lightning. And this has something to do probably with the chaotic state that the earth was catapulted into. And so the Creator, having the earth in its perfect, pristine creation, turned into without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep, and it was all underwater. And he had to bring it back to support humanity, because it would become, instead of inhabited by an angelic realm like the first earth before it became without form and void, he would restore this chaotic state of the earth and that was flooded, and bring it to where the first man Adam could live in it. And it said that he created male and female in the beginning. And Adam, they say, the man Adam was about 7 foot tall in his creation in the Garden of Eden. After the Creator restored the earth from with being without form and void, it came back to order again, where it could support human life. And the earth, as we know it today, and back then 6,000 years ago, would become a habitation for mankind. His body was the tent of which the Creator put the person of Adam, and this person had a mind, will, and emotions, and in his heart was what we call the soul. And the soul is the same thing. It's resident in Adam's heart, in his body, the physical organ, the heart, and that's where the soul, the part of man, resided. And the soul has the same attributes as our minds. And then, in addition to Adam having his body and soul, he also had the spirit come alongside him. The spirit. He had a spirit too, and this is what Les Phelps talks about in some of his teachings. Now, many things that I've just shared with you, many theologians agree with it, and there are many theologians that do not disagree with it, but it brings a little bit more understanding and clarity to the gap theory, is why I share this with you and gave you a phone number that you can actually get more resources to hear his making it clear. Because if you go to seminary, because I'm right now working for a PhD and have been in seminary, the Newburgh Theological Seminary, Department of Theology, Division of Church History and Religious Education. And when you go to seminary, a lot of times they teach in the seminary classes this material in Genesis chapter 1, creation, and they really do not go into depth about the gap theory. They do refer to it, what happened to the earth between verse 1 and verse 2 in Genesis chapter 1. And a lot of times in seminary, because maybe the teachers don't really understand what the gap theory is, they leave the students kind of unclear as to their understanding of what happened. And this teacher here that had just died back in 2023, Les Phelps, you can go to his website. They took his cassette tapes and videotapes and actually encrypted them on the internet using podcasts. His teachings are 30-minute sessions, and he talks about this creation. And I just shared that with you to give you an idea of what he has been teaching and why you might be interested in calling and maybe referring to his podcast on the internet if you have a computer, or calling his office for other resources. Again, Les Phelps put an emphasis on the fact that Peter and the other 12 apostles kind of concentrated on carrying the gospel mostly to the Jews. Jesus said, "I am not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." And his Peter and the other 12 apostles, or 11 apostles, kind of concentrated in taking the good news to the Jews. And this is what Les Feldick talks about a lot too, because at that time, after Jesus ascended in the first century primitive ancient church, a lot of Jews were sitting on the fence, and they were so entrenched in Judaism from a child. They were in Judaism religion, and Judaism was trying to pull them back, and they were on a fence close to realizing that Jesus of Nazareth was the Yahweh, very creator and the Messiah. And so Peter and the other 11 apostles were ministering to these Jews to help them decide and see clearly that Jesus was Yahweh's, the Son of God, the Creator. This is something that, and then again, Paul was called to take this good news and all that it is to the people that were non-Jews, called Gentiles. And this is what Christ, through his apostles, have been doing for over 2,000 years. We are right now in the third millennium of Christ building his church. And this is some of the content of my presentation of church history, also helping the viewers and hearers and listeners of these presentations come to a more clear understanding of how Christ has been building his church we're in the third millennium of him building his church now. And also I have to report to you that on March 29th, Friday, they had the 7 last utterances of Christ on the cross at here in Flint. The Great Lakes Baptist District had a special service from noon to 3 at Grace Emmanuel. And the pastor of Grace Emmanuel, Marvin Jennings, and his wife, they retired after many years of service there. And to replace Pastor Marvin Jennings at Grace Emmanuel was Pastor Turner. And in addition to replacement of Pastor Marvin Jennings at Grace Emmanuel at the House of Prayer Missionary Baptist Church on Carpenter Road out by Northwestern High School, their pastor Kenneth Stewart passed away or transitioned to heaven about 2 years ago, and they have a new pastor called Richard Williams now. He was there at Eric Mays' celebration of Eric Mays' life service about 2 weeks ago. Pastor Richard Williams replaced Pastor Kenneth Stewart at House of Prayer. Also, I had learned that back in 2020, when Governor Gretchen Whitmer ordered people to stay in their homes and not gather and wear masks, when this happened in 2020, Dr. Turner Hartfield of Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church, he was the assistant to the National Dean's Office of Christian Education of the National Baptist Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, and he was a Midwest Regional Director at his last, transitioned to heaven at the age of 99 years old during this time of the pandemic quarantine, and the governor forbid that only 10 people could gather. And so I watched the virtual internet funeral of Dr. Hartfield. Only 10 people could be in the building and had to wear masks at his funeral. And because he was a sergeant major in World War II, they had an American flag draped on his coffin down in the sanctuary at his funeral service. He was a Christian educator for 60 years in the National Baptist Convention and here in Flint at the Macedonia Baptist Church, and had one of the biggest Sunday schools of any church. He administered to one of the largest Sunday school classes ever at Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church. And him and his wife, Lavinia, were charter members because Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church started on Hickory Street in Mother Scott's house, probably growing close to 100 years ago now. And his wife, Lavinia, had went home to be with the Lord in her 90s. 2 years later, in 2022, Lavinia Hartfield, his wife of many years of marriage, went home and transitioned to be with the Lord. A great married couple and team that worked together in the ministry of Jesus Christ, similar to Les Feltdick and his wife, Iris. Les was 94. 96, where Dr. Hartfield lived to be almost 100 at 99 years old, he transitioned. Some great Christian married couples that ministered to the Lord. In the 7 last utterance service at Grace Emmanuel on the 29th of March, and then Thursday, the 28th of March last week, was called Holy Thursday, and many churches call Thursday Holy Thursday because they believe that on Wednesday night, Christ actually took his apostles to a place called the Upper Room in Jerusalem and seated them and washed their feet, and then he served them the Lord's table, the wafer of bread and the grape juice. And he said, as often as you eat this bread and drink this grape juice, you do this in memory of my sacrifice, my substitutionary sacrifice on the cross, dying for the sins of the whole world. And he served them what we call the Lord's table or Holy Communion after he washed their feet. And after they had the Lord's Supper or the Lord's table or Holy Communion, him and his 11, because I think Judas went out from the upper room to the Sanhedrin to begin what we call the arrest of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. It was the temple guards that took Jesus to Pilate and Herod the next day. So Jesus and his 11 apostles, without Judas Iscariot, went out of the upper room from the Lord's table, walking toward the Mount of Olives and the Garden of Gethsemane, where Christ would be going to pray. Jesus often went to Gethsemane to pray there underneath the old olive trees. And on their way down to Gethsemane, where he could pray, surrendering his wife into his heavenly Father's will, he was singing with his apostles Hebrew melody, songs in Hebrew, which adore and exalt his heavenly Father. And then once he got in the garden, he said he was praying most of the night while the other followers of Christ, the disciples, were sleeping in the garden. But he was awake and praying, and he was praying and saying, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even unto death. Oh, Father, that this cup may pass from me, but nevertheless not my will, but thy will be done. And Jesus got up after praying in agony for hours and went over to the sleeping disciples and told them, could you not stay awake with me but 1 hour? The spirit is always willing, but the flesh is weak. And after going back to praying more, he said he saw someone coming in with a lantern that night praying, and it was the temple guards. They're coming down to arrest Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane where he was praying. So he woke up his disciples, and in the event of his arrest, he took the time to teach Peter a lesson of nonviolence, because Peter grabbed a sword and cut the ear of a man named Malchus, a servant that was with the arresting officers, off, and Jesus picked up Malchus's ear and put it back on his skull and healed him. And he told Peter, all that take to the sword shall die by the sword. This is a miracle to actually see what Christ did to restore this man's cut off ear to be normal back again with the healing power of Christ. Christ, as he was preaching in Galilee and different cities and villages in and around Jerusalem and the Sea of Galilee, healed a lot of people, and these were signs that he was the Son of God with authority, because people greatly wondered when they saw him healing lame people, deaf people, and blind people. There was many signs and wonders, and this was to get the people in that vicinity to realize that Jesus was who he said he was, the Son of God. And in the seven last utterance service, the moderator, Pastor Overton of Christ Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church, introduced or brought forth seven other speakers from that would come from different places all over the United States in the National Baptist Convention, and each of the seven speakers took one of the seven last utterances of Christ for 15 minutes, and they would talk about that. They would come in their own way. The first speaker talked about the first utterance was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And the second utterance was Christ talking to one of the criminals that was crucified next to him. And he said to this criminal, this day thou shalt be with me in paradise. And then the third utterance was to his mother. He said, Woman, behold thy son, while he was hanging on the cross with the nails, the crown of thorns in his feet and hands. And he said, Woman, behold thy son. And then he looked to his follower or disciple John and said, John, behold thy mother. And then at the fourth utterance was around noon. He hung on the cross from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. It took 6 hours for him to give up the ghost. And at noon he said, this was God the Son talking to God the Father. He said, the fourth utterance, my God, why have you forsaken me? That was God talking to God. And because Jesus had the sins of the whole world on him, he died for the sins of all of mankind. From the first man, Adam, down to even our time and past our time, he died for all of the sins of mankind. And then the fifth utterance was around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and he said, I thirst. And the speaker said, here he is the living waters, and here he is on the cross, and he is saying, I thirst. And then the sixth utterance was Jesus understanding that answering the Father's will to die for the sins of the world, knew that his job had been completed, and he said, it is finished. And then after saying that, the last utterance around 3 in the afternoon, it said, Jesus said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. And having said this, he gave up the ghost. And then they took Jesus's body off the cross, and this, where Jesus was crucified, is called Mount Calvary, and because the place of crucifixion, if you go there in Jerusalem, it's on a hill, it's on an elevation or a hill, Mount Calvary, and you got to walk up the hill. And Simon of Cyrene of North Africa was the one that helped Jesus carry his cross the rest of the way up there. Jesus fell underneath the cross when he was carrying it, the way of the cross on Via Dolorosa. And Simon of Cyrene was compelled to help Jesus carry that cross the rest of the way up to Mount Calvary. But when you stand back away at ground level and view Mount Calvary, where Jesus was on the cross dying for the sins of the world, and you step away from it, and it looks like a hill, And the hill looks like the place of a skull. It looks like a human skull. The hill, just the landscape of the hill makes it look like a human skull. And that's what they call Golgotha, or the place of the skull where Jesus was crucified on Mount Calvary. And then the Bible says that after he was crucified and dead, they took his body off the cross and put it in a hewn out tomb or sepulcher that was hewn out of a limestone, which was down on the bottom of the hill where Mount Calvary was. There was a limestone tomb hewn out of limestone, and this is where they laid the dead body of Jesus in a tomb or a sepulcher hewn out of limestone. They laid him there. And Sunday morning, some women went down to anoint his body and found out two angels were there, and they said the stone was rolled away from the tomb and Christ wasn't there. And the two angels said, "Why do you seek the living from the dead? He's not here, but he's risen instead. Why do you seek the living among the dead?" And they all marveled and wondered. Even the other disciples learned of this. And if the disciples remember, Christ talked about that this would happen, but it had been blinded from their eyes and understanding that he actually was risen from the dead. Peter and John, when they found out that he was risen, rushed down to the tomb to see if it was true. And sure enough, they did not find the Lord. And then he appeared to them in his resurrected body, not just to those followers of him, but he appeared one time to 500 people at one time before he ascended back to heaven. And this is what they talked about at Grace Emmanuel on the 29th of March. And the 28th of March was Thursday, and they call that day, the Lutherans call it Maundy Thursday, and it means they believe that Christ died on Thursday of the week, having served the communion and washing the feet of his followers in the upper room on Wednesday night, and he was arrested late Wednesday night, and spent the night in Jerusalem, incarcerated, and was judged before Pilate and Herod early Thursday morning, and was on the cross by 9 a.m. and hung there till 3 p.m. And that's why they call Thursday Holy Thursday. A lot of churches serve a fish dinner on Holy Thursday to those that gather to celebrate or to remember the death of Christ and his passion. The reason they have fish is because fish was the symbol of the first followers of Christ. Jesus said, "If you follow me, I'll make you fishers of men." And Christ also, after he was resurrected from the dead, came upon a few of his followers on the road to the village of Emmaus and began to talk to them of his resurrection. And he went into the home of one of the followers, and they served Christ a fish dinner and bread that he ate at Emmaus, in a village, in a house that he appeared to in his post-resurrection also before he ascended to heaven. And there Christ ate fish too in his resurrected body, and bread at a house in Emmaus. So this was how last week, Holy Thursday, March 28th, and the day Christ was crucified, they believe, was Thursday, and then he came back early Sunday morning, I believe Sunday morning was March 31st. And the 30th, March 30th was Saturday, and the 31st was Monday, or Sunday, when Christ was resurrected and was seen of many witnesses. Can we have a silent prayer for the deceased Dr. Hartfield and his wife Lavinia, and also for Les Felpnick and his wife Iris? They have all transitioned to heaven. And I wanted to know if we could have a moment of silent prayer. And also the 6 that were killed on the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland. Could we have a moment of silent prayer before you close us out here?
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
Okay. And pray also for the new pastors at Grace Emmanuel, Pastor Turner, and the new pastor at House of Prayer, Missionary Baptist Church on Carpenter Road, Pastor Richard Williams. Let us go into a silent prayer for the bereaved families of the 6 killed in the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Maryland also. Thank you. And we will miss those that have transitioned to heaven, but we have to remember that the Father loved them best. I'll be right back.
It's a beautiful radio face, without question. All right, man. Let them know if they want it. They got some skills.
You know what? I'm going to tell them.
Tell them, please. Please.
I'm trying to get public access back together. I don't want to say back together. I've been managing it haphazardly for some 10, 15 years now. But I've decided to do a GoFundMe project.
Yeah.
So that I can hire people to do community events, and so that I can buy equipment, and that so that I can make that channel what it needs to be. Not only that channel, but a internet presence as well as that channel. So if you miss a government meeting, you can go to Fact and see it. If you miss a school play, you can go to Fact and see it. If somebody's doing a music video in their basement, you can go to Fact and see it. What do you think?
I think I like it.
You like it?
I like community events. I
So
like
there's
doing stuff to help the people.
80,000 plus people in the city of Flint. That breaks down to about
Buck a person.
40,000, 35,000 quote unquote households.
Right? It's like $2 a person.
Oh, wouldn't that be fabulous?
That'd be great.
$2. That's not even your Hulu subscription or your Netflix subscription or your well, it's about a cup of coffee, isn't it? This is Starbucks a month.
It depends on where you're getting your coffee.
All right. It's half a Starbucks.
No pump, no cream, no
but the
fat.
kicker is that we can mirror that programming on WFOV.
Outstanding.
So not only do we get television and the internet, but we get all we need is a newspaper, and we will have a trifecta. That's a word, right? A trifecta of media options here for community members at no to low cost. 810-239-2901. It's 810-239-2901. Of course, you can check us out online, Spectacle Productions, Spectacle TV on YouTube. Why not? We're on GoFundMe as well. Check it out, 810-239. At your convenience, Richard.
Start?
Yep.
Oh, I'm so glad you're back, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, in the last March of 2024, I had told you that the seminary, Newburgh Theological Seminary, I'm working for a PhD in church history, and they're requiring that I make a report on Justo Gonzalez's book, The Story of Christianity. And our special guest, Paul Herring of Spectacle Productions, will be reading excerpts that were in that report on that book that I submitted to the seminary. Paul, I believe when you stopped last month in March, this is April 2nd today, 2024, could you pick up where you left off? I think it was page 31.
Yeah, I think I need to go back to page 30 and start the great contributions and work of, and I'm having a hard time, Macrina.
Yeah,
I get that right?
yeah,
Okay, that was A. Macrina. Then we have B. Basil the Great, Gregory of Nyssa, Gregory of Nazianzus,
yeah.
Ambrose of Milan, John Chrysanthemum, aka John of Constantinople.
Yes, he was the theologian with the golden mouth
Okay. Why a gold mouth?
because he uttered theological gems that were so profound. People were amazed at what he knew about the things of the Lord from heaven.
Okay. Then we got G. Saint Jerome. H. The greatest minister and theologian of the Western Church, Augustine of Hippo.
Oh, Saint Augustine of Hippo, North Africa. Yeah, he was a great church father.
The third major divisions of Gonzalez's work, medieval Christianity, he cites the New Order. A. The Germanic kingdoms. B. The Benedictine Masonicisms.
Yeah,
C. The papacy, the beginning of the forging together of church and state and Gregory the Great. D.
Yep.
The Arab conquest and the launch of missions to counteract the spread of Islam.
yeah,
And then it says, what is this? 2. Eastern Christianity, Justinianism and Gregory. What is this? Pass to God, the Christological debates of the Council of Chalcedon.
Council of Chalcedon.
Chalcedon.
Yeah,
And then the descendant churches in the East. Flip the page.
was that Byzantine churches of the East?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then let's see, we have the Eastern Orthodoxy after Arab conquests.
Yes. Could I have a minute, Paul?
Sure.
When Paul said the Eastern Orthodox Church, there's like 3 major divisions of Christianity on the globe, and that's the Western Church, the Latin Western Church, and then you have the Eastern Orthodox up in Constantinople, Turkey, or later on Istanbul, Turkey, and then you have what is called the Orthodox Oriental Orthodox Church too, which would be India and China and Ethiopia and the Coptics of Egypt down in Africa. That's the Orthodox Oriental. So you've got 3 major divisions of Christianity today. You've got the Latin-speaking, Latin Western Church. You've got the Eastern Orthodox Church. And you've got the Orthodox Oriental churches. Go ahead, Paul.
All right, you're faster than I am. Stand by. All right. And let's see. Eastern Orthodoxy after the Arab conquest. All right. 3 is imperial restorations and continuing decay. A. The Charlemagne regime.
Yeah,
reign.
Charlemagne.
Mm-hmm.
Charlemagne regime.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, what is this? B. Theological activity, the great teachings and writings of Origena.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah.
And Elpindus. C. New invasions of barbarians. D.
Yeah, well, let's see, Paul.
Uh-huh.
The barbarians were like pagan cultures, and they didn't know the God, the living God. See, the Yahweh was the who gave Moses the 10 Commandments. The barbarians that you're reading about there in that book, the historic Christianity, the pagans and barbarians didn't know this God of the Jew Yahweh. And it was a lot of the work of the Roman Catholic Church at this time that began to kind of like Christianize these people, the barbarians and pagans. And the Roman Catholic Church was used to help Christianize these barbarians that you're reading about in pagan cultures.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right. So did it work?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Roman Catholic Church had a great influence in shaping Western civilization. That's the Western Latin Church. Yeah.
All right. So where were we at? The decay of the papacy?
Yeah. The what of
The decay of the papacy.
the decay of the papacy?
And then what your 4 was moments of renewal. During this period, the church did greatly fail, but always reformed. And it says A, the monastic reform, B, the canonical and papal reform.
Oh, the church failed at times, but they were quick to reform
Yeah, that's
during this time. Go ahead.
correct. And then it says the monastic reform, the canonical and papal reform, the papacy and the empire indirect confirmations. Number 5, the offenses against Islam.
The what? The what?
The offenses against Islam.
Of Islam? Okay, go ahead.
It says A, the first crusades.
Oh, the First Crusades, yeah.
B, the history of the 6 other crusades.
Yeah, the other crusades. There was many of them.
C, the innocent 3. D, the Spanish Requisition. E, consequences of the offense against Islam. And then it goes on for 6, it says here, the golden age of medieval Christianity.
The golden age of medieval Christianity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it says the Mendician order. The Mendicant orders.
Monastic order? Did you say?
Yeah, I think that's a T at
Yeah.
the end.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
One flock under one shepherd. C, theological activity, scholasticism, and the great scholastics.
Oh, scholasticism and the great scholars?
Yeah,
Yeah,
scholastics.
and scholastics, yeah.
And then this is Arcellum. It says 1, Arcellum. 2, Abedlin. 3, Peter Lombard. 4, Dominicans, Albert the Great, and St. Thomas Aquinas.
Yeah, St. Thomas Aquinas was a great scholastic. Yeah.
All right, on page 33.
A theologian, yeah.
All right.
Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, goodness, Richard, we're out of time.
Oh, is it time?
It is time. Hold on a
Do I
second.
have a minute or not?
Yeah, you can finish.
All right, in the
it.
last minute of this program of April 2024, I want to remind you all in the city of Flint in Genesee County, we have the 18th annual Flint Prayer Chain Day. Their website on the internet is flintprayerchain.org, and this event will be taking place Saturday, September 28th, noon at the front lawn of the City Hall. We hope to see you there. God bless each and every one of you, and Paul and I are going to now vacate the premises standing on the promises of God. Bye-bye.